Good morning, my friends. Happy Saturday. Hope you were able to sleep in a little, have a lovely breakfast, and we're going to continue on with our stories. We're starting today in chapter 36, Luke. 27 links. That's how many it took for the chain to hit the floor. I was wrong. I had estimated 26. Mr. Terupt had us estimate the final number when we only had 5. Most everybody jotted down random guesses, but I took a ruler and measured the length of what we had and the length that left to reach the floor. The real problem was that the links were all different sizes, a variable that I couldn't control. I averaged the links that were hanging and used that to help me come up with 26. All right, gang, Mr. Terupt said. 27 links. Let's see if anyone guessed that. He had all of our guesses stuffed in an empty coffee can. I was hoping to be the closest. Maybe nobody got it right. He pulled our little scraps of paper out one by one. 21, 30, dollar word. 50! Everybody laughed except me. 23, haha, he said. Here's one. 27. I lost. I can't believe I was wrong. And the winner is Anna. She must have guessed. There's no way she could have figured it out. Anna walked up to Mr. Terupt with her head held high. At least the winner wasn't Peter or Alexa. Congratulations, Anna, Mr. Terupt said. He handed her a homework pass. She was all smiles. I didn't need one of those anyways. Yay, Anna, Jessica said. Way to go. But wait, Mr. Terupt said. There seems to be one more estimate that's correct. Must be Luke's, I heard someone whisper. Drum roll, please. And the second winner is Peter. No way! I screamed inside my head. Of course, Peter made a major production of walking to the front of the room and taking a dramatic bow. Thank you, he said. This is such a great honor. Mr. Terupt handed him a homework pass. Get out of here, he said. Everyone laughed, except me. Peter flashed his homework pass in my face. The Elmer sneakers didn't bother me, but this did. I felt hot. My face and ears burned. I turned lobster red. I could feel it. I'm going to get even, I thought. The chain has touched the floor, Mr. Terupt announced. It's time for a free day. My colleagues, dollar word, and I were in for a treat. Mr. Terupt told us that we would be going outside. Great, I thought. But what's the catch? Was he going to tell us to bring our shovels, dollar word, to find out how many scoops it would take for us to clear the parking lot? Nope. Just snow pants, hats, boots, and mittens. We had the okay for Mrs. Williams to play in the snow as long as everyone had the proper snow clothes. Jessica threw us the curveball, and boy was it a bender. She didn't have snow pants. Talk about hitting us with the unexpected. So, who comes to the rescue? Me. I had to. Plus, I like Jessica. She was serious about school, and I didn't want to miss the chance to inoculate, dollar word, Peter with the snowball. Jeffrey. It's not your fault. That was what Jessica had said to me, and that was what I kept repeating in my head. The only other person to ever tell me that was Michael himself. It was just before he died. I have a hard time believing it, but his words still make me feel a little better. I need his words and Jessica's, because I know Mom and Dad blame me. They sure don't love me. Why else are they so silent? They don't speak to me, rarely, and they never even speak to each other. Dad has started going to work again, but Mom mopes around the house. She hasn't been out of her pajamas since Michael's funeral. Christmas was tough again this year. It was our second one without Michael. Not that we ever celebrated either time. Dad got a tree this year, though. It showed up one day in our living room. I put a few decorations on it, and Mom pretended it wasn't there. February. And we'll start with Peter. I ran into the classroom. Does everyone have their stuff? I yelled. Mr. T looked up from his desk. Calm down, Peter, he said. Does everyone have their stuff? I said again, still excited. Calm down, Mr. T said again. Take a deep breath. I took a deep breath. Then, in a normal voice, I said, Does everyone have their stuff? I think so, Mr. T said. Let's go then, let's go, I said. We'll go out later, Peter. Besides, we need to take attendance and do the lunch count and listening to the morning announcements. Mr. T also figured if we went outside and got soaking wet first thing, we'd be miserable for the rest of the day. He had a good point, but I still wanted to go outside. We spent the morning spread out all over the place playing different games. I played categories with Mr. T, Luke, and Jeffrey. The letter B came up on the dice. We raced through, putting down our ideas, and then it was time to share. We took turns going down the list, and then the item. The things at the beach came up. Jeffrey shared, then Luke. Then Mr. T shared. Then it was my turn. I leaned in, and with the letter B, I said, babes. Wrong. Who brings babies to the beach? Luke said. Nah, babies. Babes, Jeffrey said. I almost died. But wait, it gets better. Our very own brainiac Luke just sat there watching us laugh. Then he said, what do you mean? Can you believe that? He didn't know babes! I freaked out. Holy smokes, I said. What rock are you living under? Mr. T jumped in at this point. Easy, Peter, Mr. T said. Lots of girls don't appreciate that term. It sounds as if you don't respect them, and part of being a man is knowing how to respect women. Oh, Luke said. Girls. His light bulb had suddenly turned on. Mr. T looked at me and smiled, shaking his head. Mr. T's the best, I thought. That was the last time I got to hang out with him, though. Luke. Peter thought he was so smart all of a sudden. He won a homework pass of a lucky guess and confused me in categories. Big deal. I resolved, $word, to get him. Jeffrey. Never thought I'd play a game with my teacher, but I did. I played categories with Terupt and Luke and Peter, and I learned that I'm even smarter than Luke at some things. But that doesn't make him out to be a bad kid, just a dork. As smart as he is, Luke doesn't make a stink about it. I like him for that. But Peter, sometimes he just gets on my nerves. He's always doing stuff and never gets in trouble. I knew he was just waiting to get outside. I had a surprise for him. It would have been better if I didn't get involved. If I just stayed hating school, none of this would have happened. Peter. Finally, we were outside. The snow was perfect, the kind that packed and formed super snowballs. I scooped up a handful as we walked toward the field, squeezing it over and over. No snowballs, Mr. Terupt had said to us before coming out. We reached the corner and I stuffed the snowball in my pocket. It was too perfect to just toss it down. It wasn't like I was going to throw it. I ran out onto the untouched field. Oh, it was perfect too. There was a mountain of snow right in the middle that we climbed up. I was already standing at the top when I saw Lexi making her way up the side. I thought about how she'd been real quiet lately, like she was down in the dumps. Maybe that's why I thought knocking her into the snow would snap her out of her trance. Without thinking about it, something I never do anyways, I slid down the side and gave her a little shove. She tumbled backwards. I laughed hard. She didn't. I ran towards a smaller mound of snow. That was how the game started. Everyone joined in, running back and forth between the two mounds. We knocked each other down as we ran and wrestled each other off the tops. I'm not sure how it happened, but somehow I got knocked down. I was watching out for Lexi when somebody's shoulder checked me from behind. I fell off the mountain and landed on my belly. Lexi came running over and kicked snow in my face. I was fuming. It's one thing to get knocked down, but another to kick snow in someone's face. That's just wrong. I was angry. I got on my knees and bam! I got knocked down onto my face again. Same thing happened. Now I was fuming and steaming. I pushed myself up to see who did it when, bam! It happened again. This time the person held my face down too. I was so mad I jumped up and pulled that snowball out of my pocket and I chucked it for all it was worth. Jessica. Act 8, Scene 1. You could hear our big, heavy snow boots thumping down the sidewalk until we turned the corner and dashed out onto the field. A monstrous hill of snow loomed right in the middle. Naturally, we all sprinted towards it and clamored to be the top. Then we jumped, taking the plunge into the waist-deep, powdery white. It didn't take long before the boys started taking each other down. Peter seized the opportunity and sent Lexi flying down the side of a mountain. She landed on her back, all splayed out. Peter laughed and ran. Lexi sat up, and I could tell how mad she was by the lines in her contoured face. Suddenly, I thought of a way to get Peter. He wouldn't expect me. He'd be keeping his eye on Lexi, expecting her to retaliate. I collared Danielle, and Anna. "Here's what we're going to do," I said. It wasn't a suggestion. More like I simply told them how my ingenious plan would be executed. Act 8, Scene 2. We hid behind the mountain of snow. Peter came running towards us and scampered right up the side. While Peter stood at the top like the king of all the dorks, we snuck up the back side of the hill. Danielle threw her shoulder into Peter, knocking him off balance. He wavered. I blasted him with my shoulder, coming from the opposite direction. Anna gave the last little nudge from behind. Then the 1-2-3 punch was too much for him to handle. He squawked like a dying seagull as he flailed through the air, landing face down. Lexi ran over and kicked some snow in his face the instant he picked his head up. Danielle, Anna, and I had just reached the other mound when he turned around and saw Peter fire the snowball. Luke. Alexa kicked snow in Peter's face. He griped and whined as he sat up to wipe the snow from his eyes. "Let's get him, Luxer," Jeffrey said. I felt like a couple of snipers, dollar word, sizing up our target. Jeffrey slid down the smaller mound, hurried across the snow, shoved Peter's face back in the white powder. Peter never saw it coming, and Jeffrey was long gone by the time Peter sat up to wipe his face again. That's when I attacked. I blasted him from behind, knocking him down, and held his face in the snow extra long. This reversal, dollar word, of typical roles, with me being the victor, felt awesome! It was one of the greatest upsets, dollar word, of all time. My victory celebration lasted only a second before everything was shattered, dollar word. Jeffrey. Peter had it coming. I got him good, and so did Luxter. They say all's fair in war. Peter's not a crybaby, but all of us were ganging up on him way too much. He got upset and chucked that ice ball. Anna. I didn't want anyone to get hurt. Danielle. Why did I go along with Jessica's plan? I could have said no. I should have said no. It was supposed to be fun. We were all getting pushed in the snow. Peter would have knocked any of us down. He's always fooling around. It was supposed to be funny. How could it turn out so bad? Jessica. Act 8, Scene 3. I don't think any of us were malicious in our attacks on Peter. It was the sudden onslaught that made him throw that snowball. We didn't know. And I started it. Luke. I was running away from Peter, so I didn't actually see it. I saw something else. The twisted, dollar word, faces of Danielle and Anna and Jessica. Peter. I didn't know that Mr. T was going to be right there. Danielle. Mr. Terupt stood up, right in the way. Jessica. I still remember Lexi's screams, piercing, horrified. Peter. I didn't want to hurt anyone. Luke. Mr. Terupt should have stopped us. He let it get too far. Peter. I wish I could take it back. I didn't mean to throw it. Anna. Please let my teacher be okay. Danielle. Dear God, it's Danielle. I really need you down here. Mr. Terupt needs you. Part 2. And we're in the month of March now, friends. Jessica. Act 9, Scene 1. It's been a few weeks since Mr. Terupt went into a coma. I felt numb when I first heard. My mother got a phone call on the night that it happened from Mrs. Williams. The principal was calling all the parents. Mom hung up the telephone and explained the situation. I sat paralyzed, unable to move or speak. It was the second time in less than a year that I was in disbelief. The first was when Mom told me that Dad had a girlfriend. The day after the accident, our class had a substitute. I don't remember her name. I only remember our classroom being silent. We were given some silly worksheets to keep us busy, but no one could concentrate, not even Luke. Instead, we stared blankly at the papers or out the windows, each of us lost in an ocean of thoughts or on a roller coaster of emotions. Mrs. Williams came into our classroom later that morning. "Boys and girls, I came up here to talk to you about Mr. Terupt," she said from the front of the room. "I want you to know the truth and not some rumor that might be floating around. Mr. Terupt is in a coma, which means he's not conscious. That wasn't all that Mrs. Williams said, but that's all I remember. I already knew the truth, but I wasn't ready to hear her or anybody else talk about it so freely. I knew about comas. People don't always wake up from them. It wasn't fair. I needed comfort. I wanted to read Bridge to Terabithia and Missing May. I wanted the company of Jess and Summer and Uncle. Before Mrs. Williams finished, I did hear one other thing she said. She claimed that the snowball incident was an accident, not anyone's fault. I sure didn't believe that, and I know my classmates didn't believe it either. I wonder if Mrs. Williams thought that Mr. Terupt had let things go too far, and if she did, would he be getting in trouble? I sure hope not. He'd been dealt with enough already. Besides, Mrs. Williams was the one who gave us special permission to go outside. We could blame her, but I didn't want to see anybody get in trouble. I just wanted Mr. Terupt to wake up and fix this mess. And we'll end right now, friends, with Luke. I wanted to go see Mr. Terupt. My mom and dad didn't think it was a good idea, but I wouldn't listen. I didn't stop pestering them about it. I needed to go. Eventually, they gave in. I stepped off the hospital elevator and stared down the long hall. Mr. Terupt was in one of those rooms. Nurses moved around behind some desks. I heard some of them laughing. How could they laugh? How could they laugh when my teacher was in a coma? They grew quiet as I walked past. I felt some of them look at me and my mom, and I just kept on walking until I saw his name on the door. Terupt. Room 404. A palindrome, just like our classroom. I stopped and took a deep breath. I felt Mom's hands on my shoulder. I walked in. I saw him, on his back, perfectly still in his bed. Tubes poked into his arms, a mask covered his face, machines beeped. His eyes stayed closed. He didn't move. Not an inch. Only his chest rose up, then fell down, with each frail breath. I wanted to say something. I wanted to tell Mr. Terupt I was there. I wanted to tell him he was going to be okay. I wanted to, but I couldn't. I tried, and I felt a lump in my throat begin to choke me. I didn't want to cry. I told myself not to cry. I had coached myself not to cry, but I couldn't stop it. Tears welled up in my eyes and fell down my cheeks. I turned and ran out of the room. Mr. Terupt was going to die. I just knew it. I saw him. I saw what he looked like. He was going to die. My teacher was going to die. The elevator doors opened and I stepped in. My mom right behind me. How could he have let this happen? Why did he put so much trust in us? He should have learned from my plant concoction. He knew it probably wasn't a good idea, but he let me do it anyways. Just like he knew our rough play outside probably wasn't a good idea, but he let it go again. He should have yelled at us. He should have yelled at Peter for the frisbee. He should have yelled at him for the puddle of water. He should have yelled so that we knew he was serious. Then this never would have happened. He should have stopped us. Now he's going to die. We stepped up the elevator and walked to our car. As we pulled away, I saw the words hospital written on the sign. Mr. Terupt slept in the hospital. Dollar word. I almost smiled. Goodbye, my friends. I'll check in with you later and we'll keep on reading. Bye.